every once a quarter. The partnership is hosting one of our First Fridays down at their location as well. So if you are coming to First Fridays, just make sure you do a double check on location. And I know you guys have some great things coming up too.
Yeah, so welcome everybody. We're excited to always be part of this series. I'm very passionate about women entrepreneurs. I'm a woman entrepreneur myself. So we're happy to host this with them. You'll see the camera in the back. I always forewarn people we are simulcasting and recording because there's a lot of females who would like you to be here today and can't be, so they're watching online with us. And or if you enjoyed this and you want to share it out on your social media with others to view, the recording is always available for that. So a couple things we have coming up. I've got top 5 for small business flyers out there. Our next session is on April 25th, and it's top 5 things you need to know when leasing a space for your business.
Which is a hot topic.
If you're considering a lease or you're looking at renegotiating your lease, I would highly encourage you to attend that. May's topic will be top 5 things for your website, and these are things that you need to review on an annual basis. Will be taught by Happy Medium. And then after following that, in June, we have top 5 policies for your employees and why they're important. Coming up. So we do this series every month along with the Women's
There's no shortage of topics.
Yeah, so. Women's Business Center. So we're happy to host that. And then further out, mark your calendars for November 9th. We'll have our Small Business Success Summit again up in Ankeny. It's only $79 to attend. It is a full day of educational opportunities, 3 keynotes, one including Google, which just reconfirmed that they will be there again. And great networking. We had 265 businesses attend last year and hope to do it again this year. So I'll turn it back over to you to do introductions of the room. So.
Yeah, I know. So, well, Teresa, Adams-Tomka, who owns Kitchen Collage in Des Moines East Village. I had the pleasure of meeting Teresa for the first time about 6 months ago when I was kind of starting my journey as a small business owner, and Teresa opened her doors when she was introduced to me and
just kind of welcomed me to the community. And I think you're going to learn a little bit about that side of Teresa today and her willingness to coach and educate folks, just like all of us in this room. So with that, we're going to just kind of start chatting with Teresa. Good? Housekeeping. Thank you, Claire. Couple housekeeping things. There was a sign-in sheet when you first entered, so if you didn't have a chance to jot your name down there, and if you could do that on the way out, that would be awesome. And then these evaluation forms that were on all of your chairs, that really just helps us kind of keep track of how many folks are engaging with the Iowa Center, and also allows us to make sure that the content that we are sharing with you is something that you find relevant and helps give us ideas on what to continue kind of dishing out to everybody. Good? Okay, so welcome, Teresa.
Thanks for having me. I see familiar faces, so thank you for coming.
I know, isn't that lovely?
Thank you.
Okay, so Teresa is almost 20 years into having the Kitchen Collage, right? Next year or this year?
Yeah, no, 99 is when we open, so almost.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think it would be great if we could just start having you just talk about how you got started. Where did you even come up with the idea that you were going to open up a retail store focused on what we all need in the kitchen?
Well, it was something available in the market, but it was one of these moments where I had a girlfriend who came up to me and said, you know, come over for coffee and I want to talk to you about something. And so this is Molly. She's my former business partner, still a very good friend. She's teaching at the time, and she's my daughter's 6th grade teacher. I'd met her while she was doing her Drake Masters in English. And it was a moment of, what do you think? I think we should open a kitchen store. There was no place to register like
for a wedding.
Home goods when she was getting married. And maybe Yonkers, but she said there's not a specialty kitchen store. So what do you think? Should we open one? And I'm not kidding. You could count to like 3. And I said, yes, let's do that. Let's do that. That's a great idea, right? And so I had worked part-time, been working part-time retail for my neighbors who were backcountry outfitters. And shout out to them. They worked very hard and they're still in business. But my children were young enough that I was just working part-time, and I have 5 children, adult children now. And
But not them.
so they worked around my schedule, and so I worked for them, and so that's how I had met Molly. We're going to go around in a circle a little bit here. And when she said, this is what I think we should do, I was like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. So our biggest challenge was space, finding space that we thought would work, what our market was. And after 5 years, we moved from Urbandale, which was, we didn't think it was a big deal, but evidently it was a big deal. We were moving from the suburbs to an unknown part of, uncharted part of Des Moines.
So go back real quick to Urbandale.
Right.
So you were there, what,
5 years? 5 years.
And what was your product offering like at that time in Urbandale?
So we did a lot of tabletop, so beautiful pieces of dishes, and remember Urbandale had larger homes, so we had larger pieces of
catering
to that, and then we had cookware and knives and bakeware, and I will say we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
So there was a lot of times when Molly and I would be like, rock, paper, scissors, you have to answer that. So you learn as you go along. So don't be fearful of saying you don't know something, because the more open and honest I think you are, the more willing that customer is knows
To help you.
well, but they understand you're just being an honest person.
Yeah.
How can it, if you're trying to work your way through it and you don't know the answer, you just say, well, we don't know the answer, we're going to work through this. And they're typically more understanding than you just trying to just not be truthful.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you even pick that Urbandale location to start, or why did you pick the
Well,
location you did?
Good question. So here was our thought, and we thought it was a great idea, that 100th Street was a very busy street. So lots of cars go up and down that street all day long. And what we found is those cars just kept going. They just kept going. So they would say the car count on 100th Street between here and here is this number. And what we found is people just keep going by. So we recognized unless someone was on a mission, so we were a destination, they weren't, just the person driving down the street wasn't going to stop because the traffic was not going slow enough. So when you can go slow enough, you can look in windows, you can see the businesses that are on that path, and you know, you're not being distracted because the speed is not at 30 or 40 miles an hour, that if you're not paying attention, you're going to run into the person in front of you. So that's what we found. Our customer was very destination related. So keeping that in mind, if they were destination related, they were going to find us no matter where we were.
So when you made the decision to move, I mean, that's a big decision.
It
And
was.
probably one that you weren't anticipating.
Right.
And then you pick this location. I don't even know if it was called the East Village at the time.
I don't think so. There were a lot of, I mean, maybe it was, and that's
Yeah.
what they were working towards, was to
Uh-huh.
give it a name. But there were, I think, 4 other women businesses in the neighborhood. And then we came in, and they were still imploding buildings. They hadn't built some of the buildings. There was a lot of parking space, because that's always an issue, is parking. But we just had to help people think differently. And Molly was my business partner at the time, was from Chicago. So the idea that somebody had to travel 20 minutes to get to the store was like ridiculous. They'd even be thinking of that. She was like, God, 20 minutes is nothing. So we just had to kind of, you have to work on the phone with people and give them a different spin on, you know, this is pretty easy. You just go down the freeway and you get off and you're 4 blocks. There's parking. But what they would ask about parking, was there parking? And I mentioned this yesterday, is they were asking if there was parking right in the front of the store. And I was like, well, if it's not right in front of the store, it's across the street. So we had to really help people understand that we were in an urban environment and walking was not a bad thing. Because when you're used to maybe not an urban environment, you're used to pulling your car up in front of that building, shopping, and then you would shop, and you would get back in your car and drive at the end of the strip center and find a parking spot and shop there. So it's a teachable moment, and good or bad, that's what it was. So in an urban environment, you want to share. Most people need to walk. Walking's not going to hurt us, and we all have coats, and we all have hats, and we can park. The biggest issue is change in the meter, and now all the meters are credit cards, so you can slide in your credit card. You don't have to worry about
Sometimes they don't give
change.
you that card back.
Oh.
I've found that a couple times.
Well, come find me.
I will.
We know how to
So
mark the
did you
meters.
keep, you obviously when you were in Urbandale had your shop set up in a certain way. I'm sure that you both reorganized
Right.
pretty frequently.
Right.
Did you try and maintain the footprint a little bit, or did you completely revamp?
Well, when we moved in 2004, we had to think what our market was. And at the time, our market was probably more cooking related than we had anticipated, rather than decorating.
And you found that out even in Urbandale.
Right,
That was just
right.
what you were discovering.
Because we were thinking that way, when you enter into your business, if you're a retail store, you want to think about what's the first thing they're going to see. They're going to turn their heads right, left, right again. What do you want them to see? And then how many feet do they need to move forward? And our footprint of our store was not wide anymore. It was an 1880s building that was narrow and long. So we had to really think about space usage. And we had this huge cabinet that was beautiful. And it took us maybe a year before we figured out it can't be there because you can't see in it. You have to walk alongside it and then see what was in it. So it was a poor use of space. So you learn that as you go along, where people want to shop. And there weren't the analytics that there are now with smartphones where you can determine where people are standing if they're on your Wi-Fi, where they're standing in your store for a long period of time. Yeah, period of time. So we had to reconfigure what we thought our customer was, and then as we understood what the customer wanted, we did some built-ins. So the only thing that we really had built in when we moved into our new space in 2004 is we put a demo kitchen in the store so we could do classes. And
Had you done classes in Urbandale?
No, we'd been asked to do classes, but we did not have the facilities to do classes.
So that was top of mind
we
when you
right.
moved into...
The Food Network was still very early on, and I remember they came to visit us, and it was like, the Food Network. Oh, what's a Food Network? Right? And they needed a paella pan. We're like, oh wow, we're going to sell 2 paella pans this year because the Food Network was here. And we still have the poster that we framed that the Food Network was here, but you wouldn't know any of those people. The Food Network also changed with cooking, and it became more superstar-like, and that's what everybody wanted. Sarah Moulton, who is a friend of mine and also a PBS chef, and she's been to our store 2 or 3 times, and I've gone to dinner with her, and we've had this discussion. She was one of the first chefs on the Food Network, and she was like, yeah, does anybody remember that? No, right? And she's a real superstar. So it really did change by just the market and what was. So we had this demo kitchen that we decided that's what we would do. And I taught classes, I think, for almost 4 years nonstop until I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. And then we kind of went away from that, and now we're back at that again. We're back. but we have a very different modified program where somebody else is managing that for me and helps
Someone
me with
directly on your team, or
Yes.
somebody that you outsource to?
Well,
bring
I outsource, and she takes care of it, and she schedules the chefs, and she schedules the classes, and she teaches some herself as well.
So how many employees then do you now have at your
my gosh.
store?
We've gone back and forth, and we had a lot of part-timers, I think almost 15 at one point. And that has kind of waxed and waned, and now we're down to a solid 8. And that just changed with people's availability, who wanted to work on what days, and I had a great team, and some retired. Gosh, you know, imagine that. You own a business long enough that somebody retires, right? You know, they have like the Gold Star, you know, like the Hall of Famer award, right? So that changed some things. So they were, you know, Hall of Famers, but maybe they were only working 2 days a week. Well, you know, if you can get some consistency with maybe 3 days a week or 4 days a week, then that's what you hire, but that's fewer people. So,
And I imagine in your world, trust is
huge.
huge.
It's
Just
a huge
finding
deal.
those people that you can lean on and trust. And have you had hiccups with that along the way?
Well, we do. We kind of let that go. There are some memories of that, but generally speaking, we've had, you know, they all have a key, and they all know the alarm code, and if they need to go into the store, they know to text me that I'm there. Otherwise, they're going to scare me. You know, right? They're going to show up and be like, who's in here, right? And the only time we've ever had a problem was when I forgot to lock the door.
Happens.
Yeah, and you know, that's really the only time we've had any trouble, and somebody tripped the alarm by pulling the door, and that was the scariest moment of my life, I think. I walked,
And it was your own fault.
It was my own fault.
Yep.
Who didn't lock the door, right?
Because it's not. It would never have been my fault.
Me, no. Somebody else said that, and I was like, it was me.
So how much time with your, what did you say, eight solid employees, how much time are you actually in your store?
So, that cliche thing of you can work whatever hours you want. And so it's just what half a day you want to work, right? What part of those 12 hours do you want when you work half days? So I am in the store a lot. And that has kind of changed too, in that depending on the strengths of your staff determines what floor time and what administrative time you need. And I have found I don't like the administrative part. Don't like it at all. And I was told the more successful you are, the more admin you'll have to do.
True.
And it's true. And it's what I don't like. And because I like the customer, I like talking to the customer. I don't like being in my office. And I have discovered in the last 6 months, email is a tremendous burden. So I have to figure out how to change that in my mindset. And but technology changes our worlds on a daily basis, and we just have to be amenable to what that means in our lives.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit in the introduction of Amazon and online ordering. And is that something that you were able to see an impact with and have to change your style a little bit, or?
I think it's so Amazon's here to stay. Initially it was kind of you didn't even want to say the word because it hurt so much. It was just
did it as a retail business
right,
owner, is
well,
that something that you right away just thought, man, this could?
It's a disruptor. And so when you have disruptors, and there's always disruptors in our businesses, whatever that is, and you don't know how powerful it is. I remember initially being at we call them catalog, they're a catalog meeting to us. There are 150 small businesses like myself that we formed a unit so we could be more powerful purchasers. And this we did probably 17 years ago. So it gave us credibility, we had a catalog, and it gave us purchasing power. And early on in Amazon's I guess, inception, there were 2 Amazon people sitting in on the meeting. And I remember not paying any attention, but 2 people stood up and said, "Why is Amazon in this meeting?" And I thought, oh, who's Amazon? What does that mean? And here they could see what Amazon was up to, and they were warehousing whatever information they could get from 150 stores. They were there to learn, and no one had told them they couldn't be there. So that was an eye-opening moment when I realized that this is something to almost fear. And so it's also, you know, initially it was like books. It was going to ruin books. That's what Amazon was about, was book selling. And
You're
look
right,
at,
I kind of
and
forgot about
now
that.
they're in toilet paper. So, you know, they have encompassed everything. So how, if we have this, how do we survive in this? Because if people can have something in 2 days, why do they want to special order it from a retailer? So there's almost like a middle person now. Our manufacturers and our other people have to think about how they're going to stay alive. So it has we're kind of seeing a little bit of change as people understand how, if they order online, if they don't have community stores, how their real estate values are associated with your community. So if you don't have small businesses, how is your community affected? But in my world, of those 150 stores, there are people that we've had 8 of them close their doors in the last 2 years because they've just decided they've had it. So that's their market, and that's what's going on with their cities. But that is something, so you just have to figure out what is the challenge? And the challenge is, what people are finding out is there's no touch. There are a lot of people that want to talk to people. There are some that don't. But that's where, as a retailer, we have found it's customer service. It's always customer service. It's always going to be customer service. And so if you can enjoy those conversations and the community, be involved in the community, I think that's where we have to go with our businesses. And that, again, is all the more important why I, as an owner, need to be present.
Out in the community and present at the store. It's all
Right,
it's everything.
right. It's all, and so you think, goes back to, you know, what part of the day do you work?
Yeah.
You work all day. So and I thrive on that all day. Now, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I just need to sleep. But, you know, you can have those days. But I am, just because of my rhythms, I do work 7 days a week. Now, I take vacation, different kinds of vacations, I guess. You call them vacations, time away from the store in different ways now. But I remember my husband and I were married like 18 years before we even went on a vacation.
Isn't that crazy?
Right? And you think now everybody's like spring break, got to go on
Yes.
vacation, and you know, you got to figure out how staff works during spring break, and
Yes.
so there's all kinds of things. But I just work all the time.
So you work all the time. You have 5 children, all out of the house now.
Right,
But
right.
what's your stress relief? Who's your support group? You've talked about your girlfriends earlier
Right.
in this endeavor. What about now?
Right. So I have always said that your girlfriends are the most important unit in your lives. It doesn't matter if you own a business. It doesn't matter if that's your workout group or whatever it is. Your girlfriends are always going to be there for you. So find some that are solid and that don't care that you're going to mess up or you're going to forget your children somewhere and they're going to have to go pick them up. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And because they'll always be your go-to. And I don't care if your girlfriend is a guy. You just have to be solid with a solid unit of friends that are not going to share your life. You're trusting enough because you're always vulnerable. you just have to be trusting enough that they're there for you. And they're not going to, you know, count it against you, I guess. So, yeah, my girlfriends have always been very important.
What about so you travel a lot. You're very passionate about some very, you know, causes close to your heart. How do you talk a little bit about all the things that you do outside of work and then how you just balance everything?
Well, okay, that word balance, there's no such thing as balance. There is none. It's going to go like this. It's going to, you know, in your married life, it's going to be like, okay, I've got 90% today and you got 10%. Where's that 50-50? So let's get past there's no 50-50, none. So you're just going to be, I think you have to be present each day in the moment, and you have to choose what that's going to be. And so what I've decided in exercise is very important to me, and it's important because, you know, you try to get out of bed every day and you think, I gotta just go work out, and then I gotta just sleep. So you have the hardest part of exercise is getting there. And so once you get there, but it's so helpful for the mind, and I've discovered I work with a charitable foundation, Above and Beyond Cancer, and we do lots of things, but maybe some of what we're known for in the community is taking cancer patients to the tops of mountains. And what I've discovered is more so that you think is your give back, but you're getting so much more back. So when you think about giving, if you're receiving back more than you think you're giving, it's really working, because I've discovered that if I just walk for days, you get to think about lots of things, and I understand how that physical movement is so important to me. So that's what I've learned from that organization, amongst many other things. But so I'm active in some charitable work, and pretty much I just show up, and I'm always kind of out there shaking hands no matter what function I'm at. And that, to me, I've learned that is an important marketing tool for me as well, because there were lots of years I threw
You said threw
money.
noodles at the wall.
All through to work, and some of those things worked and some of those things didn't.
Talk about those a little bit, just from a marketing perspective.
Oh my gosh. So we did television, because television was the thing in '99. Who watches television now? Well, maybe people do, but mostly they're on their phones watching other things. But we spent a lot of money on television because we thought that's what, and one year I remember realizing what we just spent on television. I said, we could have went to Italy like 6 times. And we should have went to Italy six times. So,
do you think it worked though? Did you ever talk to someone that said, "Oh, I saw you on TV"?
You know, a little bit. But I think it didn't work as well as much money as we put towards that.
Right.
It didn't work that well. And then, yeah, media.
What about now?
Media is, well, I'm not going to say I know anything about media, but what is important and out there for some is social media. But I think social media, you know, again, technology is always changing.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen in this last year the power of social media and what it has done in our political process. So if you know that's going on, that's a big deal. And we're just this big, that it's also affecting us. So I think we have to look, as responsibility goes with social media, what we want people to see. And again, I'm still following the generation that is on their phones, and we have another generation that hasn't graduated from high school yet that are on their phones all the time. So you have to think down the road, okay, those people will have purchasing power in about 10 years. What are we going to do with people that are on their phone all the time? So
What channels are you on right now?
right.
Are you?
Well, we do Facebook, we do some Twitter, and we do Insta. We
Yeah.
call it Instajam. What are we Instajamming today, right? And so that is, I don't know. It's I enjoy seeing people's photos.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know how healthy that is, but I enjoy seeing that and what people can do with their phones. What's interesting is you can make food look beautiful
In a photo.
in a photo, and that recipe is like, oh, that was awful. Right?
looked good on
yeah,
on
man, it
Instagram.
looked good on Pinterest. Man, that is beautiful. Oh, that's awful. So you know, food. You have to pay attention to what channels you're paying attention. The bloggers and things
So
like
do you
that.
have someone then that manages
Yes,
that for you?
yes, it'll drive me crazy. Right?
It
Just
takes a lot of work.
It
and
takes time, and quite frankly, I'm of the age that didn't grow up with it. So the idea that I need to perfect something in a
Yes.
photo, and I'm not a, I mean, I don't wear makeup, so I'm not a perfectionist. It's not something I'm going to spend time with, and I
Yeah.
consider it to be minutia. And so the people that love it, go for it. It's, you know,
Yeah.
easy. It takes time. I'm not very quick at it. And that allows somebody else with better skills than my own, which is part of business too. You're going to find those people that have better skills, use them.
So what do you, when you look at your business now and the place that you're in, what do you love the most about owning your own business? I haven't even looked at that.
People. And quite frankly, I'm in sales, and
Yeah.
I love sales, and that is something in a retail business. The challenge is trying to solve someone's problem. And I think at women, we're natural at trying to figure out how to solve someone's problem. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, but that is always, every day is a challenge. And hopefully you can get through the day. I mean, we all have down days, but hopefully you can get through the day and think, man, I helped somebody. I crossed something off on my list and I helped somebody. And that's what we're there to serve, because in retail, you're only there to wait on people.
Yeah.
And you have to get past, that's what you're there to do, is wait on people. And if you're not good at waiting on people, then that's
gonna come
probably the
back.
wrong gig. So, and there are people that believe they should be waited on all the time. So you kind of have to have a personal discussion with, tell me what you're looking for, and do you just want to see everything, or are you here to, you know, are you here to be helped, or you're just killing time, right? So, you know, that's a fine balance sometimes, but you know, that's really what you have to ask, a lot of questions of people to figure out what it is they want, what it is they're looking for, and the challenge is, I helped them. I did something, so it makes you feel good.
And you once said that you really kind of have this no regrets type.
Can't have
approach.
regrets. Can't have regrets. There are all kinds of things that are going to go wrong in our lives. And I have to remember this myself sometimes. Man, that was not a good thing. But the only reason we're here today is because what happened yesterday, and what happened the day before, and what happened the year before that, and what happened before that.
Yeah.
And we are present here because of all those things. And if you're regretting that something happened, it means then you're not authentic. You're not here because you think it should have been very different. And we're all going to get through our struggles. I mean, my husband died in 2007. And he was here one day and gone the next. And that was an eye-opener. But that moved me forward into another kind of path, I guess I would say. And so you just have to embrace what's in front of you that day, and that day is going to get you to the next, hopefully. And you can't have regrets each day because you might be gone the next. So it is really, you know, you learn from everything, good or bad.
It's so true. So good and bad stuff.
Good and
You
bad.
have, let's think good and bad. What are, as a business owner, it's been 20 years, Can you just describe some of your, maybe just a couple of your more challenging moments, whether that was the fear of shutting down one day, whether it was a customer service issue where something didn't come through and it was a big deal?
Yeah, that, some of those you let go. I know there's been a lot of those moments where you think, oh man, I screwed up. And
It's like daily for me.
Right, and so, you can't, and you're insecure whether you're gonna you're gonna do the right thing, and those are natural instincts. I think, the game changer, of course, was the death of my husband, and then what was I going to do? And there's all kinds of issues with that. But when Molly, my business partner, said, "I don't want to do this anymore," I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Like, we were in this together
with my sister," right? And but much like it changes. Molly was somebody that wasn't going to have children, and she ended up having 3. And so she's like, "I'm pregnant again," and I'm like, "Okay," right? But that was beautiful because I had children, and you take what you're given, and you deal with that. So that it kind of looked like that was our sisterhood too, and that was our family, and all our staff that had children. If there was a bad day, and somebody had to go home sick, and that is just the world, and you got to help a culture within your store that understands if you've got a customer coming in and they have to wait for you to help them because somebody went home sick. Well, that's the world. That's the world, and if they don't like that world, then there are other choices, but that's our world. So that's kind of, as I say, it's our living room, and we've opened the door, and this is what's happening in our house today.
Yeah.
So when Molly said, "I don't want to do this anymore," I was like, "Oh, I'm going to have to buy her out." And this is a different kind of thing that I ever thought I would do. And people would say, "Oh, I don't know if that's going to go very well." But it turned out fine. It is, we were very understanding of what I wanted. I was very understanding of what she wanted. And much like what compromise is both of you are going to come to the table with what you want, and you're going to leave with something different. And you have to be okay with that. And what she left with and what I kept was just fine.
And it's interesting because you just highlighted some of your bigger challenges, and they're all people related, coming and going. You're not talking about a bad sales month or
geez, those are going to happen anyway, right?
It's just those big
God,
it's the people
oh my gosh, right? That's going to happen anyway, and some days that's harder to take than others. But you just, again, you go back to your girlfriends like, "Oh man, I had the worst day," but those girlfriends will be like, "Yeah, but you won't believe what happened to me." So it's all comes together in just a way that it's like, okay, just sleep. We're going to get up and we're going to do this the next day, and if we don't, well then that's what happened.
What about successes? What were some pivotal moments that you can look back on and just say, "I just remember having such joy or excitement because this happened"? Right.
So I think probably opening the store was one of those moments in the village, and that was it was an environment that I remember. I grew up in a small town, and I grew up in, when you're a small person and growing up on the farm, and you need to ride with somebody in the pickup truck because they're going to go pick up a part, or they've got to go to the grocery store. And it was a small town, so I'm talking like 600 people. So I still remember riding in the pickup truck with my grandfather or my father to go pick up whatever it was. And so in a small town, you're greeted, "How you doing?" And then they'd see there was a little person, "Well, how are you doing?" And I still remember those experiences with people that I felt were larger in life that were just part of the community. So, and everyone had a part in the community. So there were people that maybe didn't own a farm or didn't own a business, and what was their part in that community? And it was important, whatever it was they were doing, and it was important to recognize those people as humans. And so when we came to the village and people were unfamiliar with folks that maybe they weren't so sure what they did, and that was different from what they experienced from maybe where they were growing up. And so I remember, and I still remember, there are people in our community who don't have jobs that you see every day, and you have to greet them and say hello, because they need to know you're there and you're watching them, and you need to feel safe, and they, quite frankly, want to feel safe. So I remember when we were first moving in, and there was many places along East Locust that had yet to be cleaned. Their basements had to be cleaned out so they could be actual stores. And there were a couple individuals where that's what they wanted. They needed a job, so that's what they did. So they cleaned out years of junk in those old buildings and basements.
Decades.
Right, and you think of people who think, man, I don't know what's in my basement, and I don't know what's wrong with that. But these were people that did that. And I remember we were working our way through a cookbook. So what were you going to do with that food every day? Like, we didn't need it. I didn't need those brownies again. I didn't need whatever. So we were kind of feeding the neighborhood out of our back door. Hey, you know, you want a brownie?
awesome.
You want a sandwich? You know, and I still, and you know, I know we're being videoed, but I still remember Molly saying, what do you think's wrong with that guy's arm? And I said, that's a bullet hole. I think he got shot. But he needs a job. I'm sure he needs a job. And so Molly was like, oh my God, Teresa, what are we doing? I'm like, this is humanity.
Yeah.
And this is a part of our world. And welcome to this. So I think that's what we forget is we come and go. And we just have to think, these people are real. And yeah, they're making kind of a lot of noise. Maybe they're sitting on the corner talking to themselves. But you know
here
what?
to help.
We're here to help. And that is the beautiful part of being in the food world. People love food. They love different, or, you know, they're hungry. And so
And they won't turn it away. And if they do, something might be wrong.
Oh,
with them,
and if they
right?
turn it away, they can throw it in the garbage. I'm okay with that. It's a gift. They've got it. They need to do something with it. But that was the greatest feeling, was I was part of something.
Community.
And that is what we try to do at the Collage, is just understand, help people understand, we're just here, and hopefully we'll stay here a while longer. But this is what our world is.
So what about, how are we doing? Okay,
we're
we're
doing
going to
good.
leave a little time for Q&A.
Yeah.
How about just words of wisdom?
You know, you get older and you've learned from mistakes. So at wisdom, I don't have a lot other than understanding that if you have a small business, you have to be okay with working a lot. So you have to have the self-discipline that you're going to work. I hesitate when people will say, I'm going to have so much fun. And I'm like, yeah, you are going to have fun. But this isn't like fun times, right? This is a serious, you've got banking involved, you've got families involved. This is serious stuff. So if you want to have fun, go work for somebody. That's a whole lot more fun. You know, if fun is, the funometer is the first thing out the door, I'm going to tell you. But, so just know you're going to work hard, and I love working. So that is what I feed on. And if maybe that's not where you're at, maybe you need to rethink, or maybe you can make a ton of money on 2 days a week, and some people can, or maybe 6 months out of the year, depending on what they've got going on. But it kind of comes and goes. There are things that we don't have control of that changes are maybe a month or a year. The caucuses are a disruptor. and in a good way in some ways and
Yeah.
not other ways. So there are outlying forces that will affect your business, and there'll be days where you think, like, oh, that blizzard or 20 days of cold below zero is going to affect your business. So I guess you have to have the stomach to get through it again. Or girlfriends.
Or girlfriends.
And I guess the one thing I want to speak to, and I hadn't really thought about it, sustainability means a very different thing than maybe what I initially thought it was. And sustainability to me, maybe in 2000 was, oh, we're not going to use water bottles anymore. Or, we have to reduce our plastic use. And I think sustainability now for us is how we're going to be involved in the community over a period of time and what legacy we're going to leave. Because I think after 20 years, it's, you might think, I'm going to make $1 million in the first 5 years. Well, let me tell you, that'd be great if you do. But really, how much do you need, and what does it take to get that, and what are your needs? And because my kids are adult children now, and I don't have to think so much about how am I going to care for the kids, and how are they going to go to college, and all of that, what legacy are we going to leave? And did we just touch people enough that their life is good today? So that's kind of, when you need a pan because you have to, saute some onions, well, yeah, you're coming into Kitchen Collage and we're going to get you a great pan. But hopefully we touched your lives and made you feel better and then inspired you to do something else.
I love that. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing so much
Yeah,
today.
that's a lot.
It is, but it was great. Are there questions? We haven't talked a lot about Teresa's shop in general.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm
fixing
fixing mint juleps from 5 to 7 tonight.
And talk about the cups you can get.
Yeah. So, part of, again, a change in retail is it's event generated. So we have to come up with ideas of what people are interested, they'd like to be entertained, what are we going to do? So we have people that own companies that like to come share what they do because they're full of life too, and this is their life and this is what they love. So we have somebody from Salisbury Pewter, Joe, and he loves to make mint juleps. So we thought, okay, mint julep time is May, so now we're going to do mint juleps in April so you can know when Kentucky Derby comes how to make your own. And so we have tonight, Joe has come from New Jersey. Doesn't sound very Kentucky-like, but he is making mint juleps, and he's going to show you. And if you purchase a cup tonight, he's going to monogram it for free. So you'll have
it back to you
in time, so you can make your own mint julep for the Kentucky Derby, which lasts like 5 minutes. But,
2.
yeah, okay, right. And so, but you can watch it again and again because of technology. So, all right, are there any questions enough about what I've got going on? Yes.
How did you decide on the manufacturers that you were using?
That's great. Great question. In that, what helped us were some other stores, and that for the business that you're thinking of or that you're involved in, find like-minded stores that maybe aren't in your own geographic area. And that's what we found from conferences. We would go to a conference and somebody would have the same type of store. And so that's where we started sharing, and this catalog kind of came into play, is that we could share with other businesses that were like-minded, that kind of you knew just by talking to them if they had the same trust kind of involved, and you'd say, where'd you get that? Can I call you? And that's what we just started doing, was sharing that. And then those reps that are from those manufacturers were key. And if you could trust the reps that would be selling your product or helping you to understand whatever that was, they also knew other reps. They had their own network of rep friends. And you'd say, well, tell me about that. And, can I have their phone number? And can I call them and talk? And most small businesses, if you give them enough time ahead, are willing to talk to you. And so, you know, just put it out there, because what are they going to do? Say no, and you're like, oh, rats, that didn't work. But, you know, you'll still find a network somehow, and just kind of consider them as friends or rather than foes. And they're either going to help you or not. You're going to like, okay, well, I don't need to deal with you because you're not going to help. But there are probably 6 others that will. I mean, in Iowa, you know, we're just kind of Iowa nice. We're going to help people. But, you know, that's not always the case everywhere else. But for the most part, you'll find your way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to Kitchen Collage tonight. So maybe we'll see some of you there.
So, you know, we're here to help you smile. So, thank you. Oh,
What is your Instagram and
oh my
your
gosh. Okay,
website?
so
Do we need
that's
to
a
go to
great
the website to find out?
Okay, I know what my website is. It's mykitchencollage.com.
And on there, you can connect to Instagram.
Yes, and you can go find social media, or you can send an email to us. And I believe our Instagram is Kitchen Collage DM, I think. DSM. Thank you. Thank you. Usually it'll pop up, right? So I don't have to know all of it. But yeah, like us or whatever you're supposed to do.
Yes. And visit Teresa. I remember I went down there for nothing to do with my bedroom and perused the store and ended up with linen bed sheets.
Right.
So
Right. So that's, you know, that's something where, you know, in a village full of people, where are they going to get their bedding? Where are they going to get their towels? And there's a lot that are going to get it online. But if you want something really nice, we got it. Or we'll source it and find it.
Right.
So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff.
Well, thank you everybody for coming, and we hope
Thank
to
you.
see you again next month. What month is that? May. We have Mary Ann Kennedy from Primary Source, who's actually
right
here
here.
today. And then we also have Susan Watts in the room from Olson Larson Gallery, and she's our first Friday speaker in July. So come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have to remember the mics are still on.
Yeah.
Be careful.